Welcome back to video number 2. Here we are diving into the design settings, which is the beginning stages of customizing your website. So first thing you're going to do is navigate over to the top of this left panel here, and we're going to click on design settings. This is going to bring up the global template settings. Now, the most important thing to know about this is any changes you make here are going to populate on your site globally. So if you just want to change a color here and there, you're going to do that actually inside the canvas, but this is where you're going to start to input your brand colors and start making the entire website fit your branding. So the first step in doing that is actually updating your color palette. So what you're going to do is load in your brand colors. You have 8, and you want to add them in from darkest to lightest. So 8 here, we have our white, and number 1 here, we have black. If you have 6 colors and you want to add them in between, I would definitely start at 2 and go through 7. If you have 8 colors in your brand, you definitely can add all of them in using the full range. Now, of course, you can always add custom colors later. This is kind of just going to be a shortcut so that you're able to select your brand colors from your palette. Now, you'll notice that these are numbered, so that means everywhere, if I were to change number 1, everywhere on the site where an element is tagged as number 1, it's going to change that color. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going through and adding these colors. If you want, for example, most of your text to be black or the darkest color in your palette, you'll make sure that on these settings down here, you add the color number 1. So if I were to change this to color number 7, that means the default title will be in color number 7. We'll get to text in just a second, but I just sort of wanted to give you an example of how these colors work and why they have numbers on them. So you'll go through and add all of your colors, and then you also want to select your canvas background color. So as a default in this template right now, it is set to white. If you are not using white, like pure white in your brand palette, then you might want to change this to another light color in your palette. So if you're using kind of like a nude color or an off-white, you'll want to go through and just select what color you want the default background to be. Of course, remember, you always can make exceptions to kind of these rules that we're setting up on a canvas level, but this is going to just save you a lot of time in the long run. Okay, so next let's talk about the fonts on your site. If you like the fonts that are currently on here, you are absolutely able to use them. You just want to make sure that you purchase the correct license for this font right here, this title font. It's called Ivy Presto Display, and I'll show you how to do that. So you're going to go back to the document you first got in your email when you purchase. So Ivy Presto Display Thin is the font that is used inside of this template. Of course, you are able to use your own custom font for your brand or any of the Google fonts in the library. We also have included some Google fonts that are quite similar to Ivy Presto. If you do like that font and you want something very similar, these would be great options for you. But if you want this exact font, you will have to purchase the license for that. So what we're going to do is click on this here, and it's going to bring you to this page where it just has a preview of the font and a link to purchase. So I am going to click on this buy button up here at the top. It's going to bring up this pop-up window, and then we're going to click on web. And then after web, you want to make sure you select self-hosted and then your appropriate amount of page views per month. This most likely will be the best option for you. And then you'll want to go down and just add it to cart, and you can complete your purchase. Once completed, you can then upload it to show it, which I'll show you how to do right now. Get what's called a WAF file. You'll add that WAF file to your media library, and then you'll be able to select it from the fonts drop down. So I'll show you here. So library WAF, you're going to select it from here. So you can see this is the list of all of the fonts that we currently have installed in our library. So I'm going to select Ivy Presto Display Thin. You will select either this font once you purchase it or whatever your own custom fonts are for your brand. It works the same way. You'll get that WAF file, upload it to the media library, and then it will display here. Then you can name the font. So for this one, I'm just going to name it exactly what it is here. Ivy Presto Display Thin. Great, so you can see it appears here. It's the same exact font as Ivy Presto 2. And then you'll just tick this box saying that you own a license to use this on your website, and you'll hit add custom font. You will do this for the custom fonts that fit your brand, or if you choose to purchase this one. You also have access to the entire Google font library, so you'll be able to choose a font from this drop-down list. If you want to see a preview of what these fonts look like, you can go to Google Fonts here and see kind of previews of what they look like. Again, if you go back to the document that you first got when you purchased, we have some recommendations here for something similar to Ivy Presto if you like the styling of the template font. So going back to show it, now that we have our fonts in the library, we can hit save so that it saves all of your changes. Then you want to open the design settings back up and you're going to go to Site Style. Here is where you can set the defaults for the title, the heading, the subheading, and the paragraph. And you want to do that for both desktop and mobile. So for title, you would adjust here. You want to set it to the correct color. If you need to adjust the size, spacing, default alignment, you'll do that for each one. So you just open these little three dots and you'll have access to the styling properties, and you want to match it as best you can on the mobile. Now keep in mind the mobile is going to be a little bit smaller than the desktop, so you can see this one we have the size for Ivy Presto at 35, and on the desktop we have it at 50. So once you are happy with all of the styling inside of your site settings, you can go ahead and hit save. Once you do so, you'll start to see that your entire template is going to reflect the changes that you made. Most areas it will start to populate, but there are going to be some areas where you want to go in and manually change some of the fonts and the coloring, and then this is where you can continue to edit your template to fit the needs of your brand. In the next video, video number 3, we're going to be going over the media library, the images, and further customization that you can do to your site.